Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Good News episode, where we are sitting down with Chris Bogart, the Unicoi County High School principal, and we are going to be talking about the concerns, but also the hope that he sees right now. So, this next question is off of kind of the shutdown of last year.
Yes.
I would love to know, because that was the first, crazy stuff that was happening.
Yes, very much.
I would love to know where you saw Jesus in that situation, because schools were forced to virtual learn right away.
Right.
They had no time to prepare. They were just thrown in.
Right.
So I would love to know what encouraged you. Where did you see hope? Where did you see Jesus show up during that time?
Right. So I think so many times in our lives we rely on our own strength to do things. We have our own patterns, we have our own routines, we have our own sort of idea of how things go. So on March the 17th, all that got turned upside down. And everything we knew about education stopped. And for me, it was very much a reflective time in terms of I had a way that I thought things always were supposed to go. And sometimes that's not the way it works. And we can't rely on ourselves to get through it. We can't rely on ourselves to find the answers. And sometimes the answers we think should be there maybe aren't those. And so for me personally, I had to spend a lot of time there those first few weeks really praying, really meditating, really searching in my heart to say, it's okay. Things are different. How can I show Christ through this? How can I show my faith through this, to say that it's going to be okay, that I know God's got this, that even though our world gets messed up, if we have that hope and that faith, then we're still moving in that right direction, and things are going to be okay. It may not work out like we wanted it to. I know from a personal standpoint, my daughter was a senior. So this was huge for us. Her senior year, her senior softball season, all these things. And I was the one that had to break the news to her that, all these things are canceled. Prom, the original graduation, all these things you're not going to get to experience in your senior year. And so I'm going home and I'm at home and I'm having to break the news to her on all these things. And the thing that I wanted to show to her was that disappointments don't have to define us. And the what we have done, the way we have lived our lives, and that's the legacy that we're going to leave. It's not just about events and different things like that. And we shouldn't put our hope in those things. And so it was a huge lesson for myself and for my family, and I hope for my daughter to learn about those disappointments and about how our faith can get us through that. And even though things don't work out exactly like we wanted. The school year didn't go anything like I thought it was going. And I'm a planner, everything's on a calendar, all these things. None of that worked out, but it was okay, And it's an opportunity, and it was an opportunity for me to show my faith to my family, to those around me, to say that, yes, this is very disappointing, but I'm still going to work, and I'm still going to go forward, and I'm still going to show Christ's love in this process, and I know that He loves me. And so I think that's, for me personally, where I think it really enhanced my faith and strengthened my faith to realize that maybe our plans don't always work out exactly like we thought they were going to work out, but we can trust in that hope in Christ and realize that we still have opportunities and we still have the ability to make a difference in people's lives. And just because things don't work out doesn't mean we stop doing that. So it was there was a lot of lessons that I learned personally, through this whole process.
Yeah. So what would you say because there's a lot of uncertainty around school starting back.
Right.
I know for some schools they've changed the days that they're starting, and it's still tentative. So how would you speak into the uncertainty? For a lot of parents, they're both working.
Absolutely.
They rely on schools to, that they're otherwise their kids at home by themselves.
Right.
So they're trying to plan, okay, how is my child going to be staying home or learning virtually if we're both working?
Right.
So what would you speak into that uncertainty of the start date of school starting back up at all? Well,
I think, and I kind of mentioned this before in another question, patience, number one. Kind of like I said with another answer, just we have plans and we have ideas, but those can change at any moment. And I think patience is really important with the uncertainty that we all face. I mean, as we sit here today, we're working to begin the new school year, start the year, but tomorrow our plans may go out the window and we may just completely scrap them and go a different direction. And so we're all dealing with that uncertainty. So I think patience, number one, is just realizing that we've got to be sure going forward. And then I think too, having multiple plans and ideas. Think, okay, school goes back normally, great, everything's fine. Then take those a step down and say, let's plan for this contingency, let's plan for this contingency. And everybody's situation is different. Yeah. Working parents, that's a huge issue. People have to, not that, school has so many impacts beyond just, it allows parents to work and different things like that. So I would just say have multiple plans in place and begin that, don't be caught off guard. Because we might go back to school and be in school for 3 weeks and then all of a sudden we have to shut down again. Yeah. So what's your plan there? What is it practically that you can do? How do we prepare for those situations? And that way we're not necessarily caught off guard, because we could go from anywhere from being in school full time to not being in school at all, and then maybe in between, depending on grade level or certain days you may be in school. So basically right now, it's kind of like we are, make multiple plans, and be able to enact those plans if the situation calls for it. Don't expect one path. Yeah.
So there's been a few different concerns that are going on in society right now.
Absolutely.
One is mental health.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it on a previous interview. But I would like to know your thoughts on the mental health of the students, but also from your perspective of kind of overseeing the whole building, the mental health of the teachers, because they're, probably pulling their hair out right now.
Absolutely.
So what are your concerns? Kind of just speak into that and
sure.
anything we can do to help.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll start with the teachers. You mentioned that same, but I'll start with teachers. You have a way that you do something, whatever job it is. I don't care if it's teaching. I don't care if it's a doctor, a lawyer, or a mechanic or whatever. You have a certain way of doing things, and then all of a sudden something comes up one day and they tell you you're going to have to completely change your processes and the way you do it. That in itself, as we talked about before, brings with it a lot of anxiety, a lot of the unknown, and it's very difficult. Now, that stresses teachers. And I know across the country, and teachers have retired. People are moving out. They're just removing themselves from the situation because of that stress level. And so I think, for us going forward, one of the things that we've talked to our teachers about this summer is trying to help them understand it's okay if we make a mistake. But I do worry that the anxiety and stress level is going to impact them physically. As we know, stress and anxiety, hurt us physically. And so I worry a lot about that. And I think ways that we can find to provide care for our teachers is incredibly important within the school building or virtually and whatever it may be. For a student standpoint, I'll tell you this much. That's probably, even beyond technology, that's probably the biggest change that I've seen in education in 27 years, are the things that kids deal with when they come to us. The I call it baggage, which may not be a great way to use it, but the situations that they come from. And that's why I think school is so important, because we can provide food, we can provide safety, we can provide community. And when you take kids out of that, and they don't have that, and it's well documented, but it stresses them. It creates these incredible stressors on them that they maybe haven't dealt with. As an adult, we have the ability to process things. Like, things don't go the way we want them. We understand, we process, we move on. But even teenagers, I joke with the kids. Well, I tell them all the time, so you did that because your brain's not fully developed, and it's a joke, but it's true. They have a lot of these emotions are the things that they're dealing with for the first time. This change, and they don't get to see this. Maybe they're not really good friends with this one person, but they're friends at school and they like hanging out with them and they'd like to develop a relationship, but now that's been taken away because they can't see each other every day. And that's a huge stressor. Now you add that on top of whatever they may be dealing with from a home situation. Maybe it's finances, maybe it's a home, a broken home, maybe they don't live with their parents, and maybe they're dealing with issues there that they haven't fully come to grips with yet, and then you add this layer on top of it, and it pushes kids in directions that maybe they wouldn't otherwise go. And so I have enormous concerns over just not having kids in the building where they can see a caring adult, Even if they're not talking about their problems, just somebody to say, hey, how's your day? Give them a fist bump, give them a high five, make them feel welcome. Just that aspect of it alone concerns me greatly, because I know what all of these kids are dealing with at home. And then in our situation in high school, you throw on just the regular teenage angst, and then you throw this new situation in here, and they may not be emotionally mature enough. I'm not saying mature like in a bad way, but just emotionally mature. They haven't developed those cognitive skills to deal with these things, and we need to help them. And doing Zoom calls are great. You can talk with a kid and all that, but actually sitting across from someone, giving them a fist bump, making that close eye contact, just walking down a hall, having a conversation with a kid, that's the best times of my day. Is just even if a lot of times I make the kid late for class, which I give them, which I go tell the teacher it's my fault. But those are the best times in my day or my job, is just catching a kid in the hallway and just walking down the hall talking about what they did at work, talking about what they're doing in the future, just talking about what they did this morning, whatever it may be, to develop those relationships. And that's hard to do virtually. I can't walk down a hall with a kid over a computer. And there's just something about physical proximity, just being around someone or around a group, that makes a difference. So I hate that it adds this layer onto the things that they're already dealing with, that they may not, like I said, be able to cognitively process yet, because they just haven't developed those skills yet. Mm-hmm.
So how could we, kind of speaking into that a little bit, because if they're learning virtually, what can we do as a community to help the teachers in that aspect? The teachers might not be able to see them physically every day, but hopefully maybe they will be doing something outside of the house or somewhere where another adult can see them. What can we do to ensure to kind of come alongside the teacher in that aspect? Because they're already going through a lot and trying to add, okay, how do I, because teachers care for the kids. I mean, they care deeply for them.
They do.
And they have a lot of kids to care for.
They do.
I mean,
they do. They do.
What, I don't know how many kids are in a classroom, but that's like 20 kids that you're having to care for. I could not imagine. I mean, 3 for me is all
I know.
So what can we do as a community to come alongside the teachers in that specific area to ensure that the kids have that caring adult?
Right. I think, and this may be a little bit different and difficult in our socially distant environment right now, but there's ways to do it. But I think creating environments where adults and children, teenagers, whatever it may be, can come together socially. It might be something as simple as rolling up to the skate park with a cooler full of water bottles, and just hanging out for a couple hours with some kids, creating events maybe through church or maybe through community organization or whatever it may be, that again socially distant, appropriate there, but just opportunities for kids to get together in a positive environment to create that community, providing that opportunity. And I would say even volunteering in some of the organizations that are already involved. I've been involved with Little League for many years, coaching and been on the board and different things like that. Organizations like that, like Little League or the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA and things like that, they're always looking for people to come in and help. And those are places where children gather. And so if we can support and be another caring adult that has can have a voice there, that would be huge. When we get back to when we get back to playing sports, let's use sports as an example. We get back to playing sports. How can a group of adults, maybe it's a church community group or something like that, how can you just love on an athletic team, on the band at a high school? How can you show love to the actors in a drama production at a school? Could you just throw them a cast party at the end of the last night of production? Could a community group come in and throw a cast party so that they see that there are people outside that really do care about their success as well? But I think we have to be intentional about creating those to where we can build relationships and have conversations. And I think I will say this too: if you have children, what you do in your home, how do you encourage your child to reach out to other children? I know that's too many times kids get into their own sort of group and they don't branch out of that group. So how do we as parents encourage, embolden, teach our children to step outside of their comfort zone and meet new people and reach out? How do we go about building those relationships, quite frankly, in a way to, discipleship in a way. I mean, it's the basis of discipleship, the beginning steps. How do we create those relationships? So I think how we are intentional about our children reaching out. But if there are ways that people can, even like I said, whether it's a church community group or just a neighborhood group of adults, how can you step into people's lives? And I think being intentional about getting involved with some organizations, don't pick a bunch because you don't want to wear yourself out. But there's just one thing you can do. If you just go coach a basketball team with the local rec league one winter, because there are people that are always looking for youth coaches and things like that. And I know as a parent, it'd be nice if I didn't have to coach everything all the time. If other people stepped in, and you may not even know a lot about ball, but you don't really have to. You just have to know about caring about somebody. So things like that I think would be incredibly beneficial that would support teachers and allow us to help them see that there are more adults out there that care about them.
Is there anything else you would like to add that you would like to tell the community just because of what's going on right now?
Yeah, I think number one, I would say, regardless of your feelings about school and school in the era of pandemic and whether kids should be in school or out of school or whatever, understand, and I can speak for. I mean, this is our community, Unicoi County school system. I'm obviously part of this school system. I'll speak for us, but I'll speak for the school systems at large too in this region. Children's safety is our number one priority. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it is the truth. That is absolutely, it is safety. Now, whether that's physical safety or health-wise, it doesn't matter. That's our priority. And so when people get, upset or mad or whatever it is about this school's doing this and this school's doing this, take a step back and just realize that educators are educators because they love children. They want to make a difference. They want to leave a legacy. Now, we may not always agree on it, but the decisions we make are going to be made out of love and care and safety. And we don't want kids to get sick. We don't want kids to be hurt. We don't want, parents to get sick from their kids or anything like that. So whatever decision we're making, we're spending time thinking about it. Many of us, and I know I'm fortunate to work in a school system that believes in this. Get us in trouble, but believes in this. But many of us are, we're educators in faith, and we pray, and we seek God's guidance in what we do. And so the decisions that we make aren't just made, we're not just, we'll just do this. They're thoughtful decisions. They are excruciatingly decided. I mean, there's a lot of things. Sometimes there's just not good options. Sometimes we're choosing the least bad option. We know that. So I would say just understand that our decisions are made with love and with care. And for many of us, it's made in faith. And that's something that I think sometimes, in the social media world, people get all wrapped up and tore up about things, and they don't realize that we're humans. Many of us are people of faith who are trying to make decisions based on that for the good of the children. So that would be something that whoever watches this or sees this, I truly believe I speak for pretty much every educational system in this region, because we spend a lot of time working with them. And I know many people in the other school systems around this area, the 16 or 17 school systems. I probably know people in every one of them, administrators, teachers, superintendents, whatever it may be. And they're good people. They're good people trying to make hard decisions. And that's important. So.
Sure. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's Good News episode. If you have a good news story and want to be featured on this show, email me at goodnews@wcqr.org. Also, if you liked this video, make sure you hit that like button below and click that subscribe button as well so you don't miss out on a single episode.